congregation telling you, because each Shabbat there is a different musical genre that we are listening to. We will sometimes have jazz, we'll sometimes have Mizrahi music, we'll sometimes have world music, and we'll also sometimes have a contemplative kind of experience, which reminds me, Chazan, I don't think we've had one in a while, so I don't know when we have one on the calendar, but that's one of my favorites. So we want to welcome you here, and again, as always, thank Chazan Agar for making this music happen, and for all of the musicians who work with him. We're going to begin the service on page 13 of your prayer book with Shalom Aleichem.
המלאכים הקדוש ברוך הוא בואכם לשלום מלאכי השלום מלאכי עליון ממלאכי מלאכי המלאכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ברכוני לשלום מלאכי השלום מלאכי מלך מלאכי המלאכים קדוש ברוך הוא תקן לשלום מלאכי השלום מלאכי עליון ממלך מלאכי המלאכים הקדוש ברוך
Hashamayim, the heavens will rejoice. It's 4 lines from the bottom of the page.
ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. יירם הים, יירם הים, יירם הים ומלואו. 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 ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ.
We invite you to turn ahead with us to page 20 as we continue Mizmor LeDavid. Again, for those who wish to, you may rise. It's traditional, but we encourage people who find more pleasure in sitting to remain seated. Page 20.
מזמור לדוד, אבו Adonai b'neim, Havul Adonai, Kavod va'od. Ay, 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 Havul Adonai, Gevot Shimo, Yisach Havul Adonai, Ve'adrat Kodesh, Kol Adonai al hamayim, El HaKavod, Adonai al hamayim, Rabim, Kol Adonai, Bakoach, ay, 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 Kol Adonai, Be'adat, Kol Adonai, over Arazim, Vayshaber Adonai, Yatar ze ha'levanot, Vayarchidem, Kemo Eged, Ufegalo, Kulo Merkavot, Adonai Lamabul Yashav, Vayeshev Adonai Melech Leolam, ay, 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 Kol Adonai, Oz le'amo Yikrai, Kol Adonai Yevarech et amo, Ma Shalom, Yivarech et amo, Ma Shalom.
Please be seated. We're going to continue now with Lecha Dodi as we come to the part of Kabbalat Shabbat in which we welcome the Shekhinah, God's presence, into our Shabbat celebration. We're going to be doing the first, second, and last verses on page 21, and then we'll rise as we complete Lecha Dodi, the bottom of page 22.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zakor v'diborecha ishmianu, elam yuchad Adonai echad, u'shemo echad l'shemu tiferet. Beletila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lehuvanecha, ki mekor haberata merosh mikedet nesuka sof maaseh. Machshavat tila Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Ittoreri ki haorech, u'miori uri, shir dabeiri kevod Adonai. Naik nigla, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom mateharen balagam v'simcha, u'v'tzola toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
We invite you to be seated, and this is the time in our service when we remember those in our extended Beth Sholom congregational family who have lost loved ones in the week that is now ending, and we extend our condolences to Adam Eisenberg on the passing of his mother, Sarah Eisenberg, Zichrona Livracha. And we will offer the words of consolation that are found on the bottom of page 22 of our prayer book to Adam and any in our larger community, those watching on the Zoom or on the live stream who may have lost a loved one this week. Hamakom yenachem etchem betoch sha'ar avelei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. We'll turn now to page 23 as we continue with the Tzadik Katamar from the Psalm for Shabbat, the last 4 lines of this Psalm, page 23.
Tzadik Adar Yifrach K'erez Valvadol Yisga Shedolim B'Vet Adonai B'Katzrot Eloheinu Yafrichu Od Yenun B'Seva D'Shenim V'Rananim Yeyo Le'Hagid Ki Ashar Adonai B'Katzrot Eloheinu Yata Bo.
We'll invite those of you who are in the process of mourning or observing a yahrzeit to please rise and to join with me as we conclude Kabbalat Shabbat with the Mourner's Kaddish, page 24. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba. Yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon. U'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevorach leolam almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit alev, v'yit halal, shemei de kudusha, b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, damiran v'alma v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. We ask God who brings peace on high to bring peace and comfort to all of you who may be remembering loved ones. So I'm going to pause for just a moment before Mariv, and often what we'll do is we'll go around the room. But I'm going to actually just invite people to just take a moment in quiet and think about your week that is now ending and began this past week, and think about I know for a lot of us, we had to make that transition to daylight savings, which meant we lost some sleep. And if you're an early riser, as I am, and you were starting to get used to having sun that was up when you got up, then all of a sudden it was dark again. But if there is something from your week, we're going to just invite people who feel like there was something that was beautiful from their week to share it. And people can raise their hands, and we'll share those who would like to share something, as opposed to everyone going around the room, which sometimes makes me feel that maybe we're putting people on the spot. So as you're thinking about that, I'm going to just share a quick bit of Torah with you. And we are going to be concluding the book of Exodus this Shabbat, Vayakel Pekudei. We have 2 parshiot that are part of this week's Torah reading. So there was a great trauma that was part of last week's Shabbat, and that was the sin of the golden calf. And then this week's Torah portion results in the completion of this physical edifice called the Mishkan, the tabernacle, which is where God's presence is going to dwell. So the question that I have is, how do we go from this kind of trauma last Shabbat to this ultimate meditation on what it means to bring holiness into the world? That's the question that comes to mind, and I want to offer you a couple of answers. The first answer is that the opening words of the Parsha, Vayakel Moshe et Adat B'nai Israel, is that Moses begins this transition from trauma to holiness. He gathers the people together. And the first mitzvah that he reminds them of, once he gathers them, is what mitzvah? Does anyone have a guess? I'll give you a hint. We're doing it now. It's Shabbat, right? So the first mitzvah that Moshe reminds the people about is Shabbat, right? Which is about unplugging, resetting, perspective, doing but not being, right? And on this Shabbat in particular, I was thinking that we call this Shabbat HaChodesh. Why? Because it is the Shabbat of the new month of Nisan, right? Which reminds us, what does that remind us of? That we've got 2 weeks to get our act together from this Thursday for your Sidarim. That's what it means. You got this Shabbat coming because the rabbi is like, hey, you got a lot to do. So we're going to make you very aware. It's called Shabbat HaChodesh, and tomorrow we'll have a special Haftarah about the blessings of this month, right? But we all know that a lot of us get, myself included, we get our obsessive-compulsive tendencies out preparing for Pesach, trying to get rid of chametz, cleaning, cooking, right? But you can lose sight of the fact that it's not just about all that physical preparation. It's about the preparation of your heart to be ready to start this new journey that our people began when they left Egypt. And so the second thing I want to teach you from the Parsha I think is so beautiful is that not only do we need to kind of get the break of Shabbat, that's the first of Moshe's command, but the second part of what Moshe says is that take from among you an offering, whoever has a willing heart, bring that which you have from your heart and offer it to God. And then he goes on to say, it can be gold, it can be brass, it can be silver. And the first thing that he mentions is gold. Right? It was last Shabbat that it was the gold that got the Israelites into trouble. Right? It's the same material. He's saying, bring it from your heart. But bring it from that place of that open, generous, willing heart. And you can take the same material that was used for ill and turn it into something good. And that's true of, I think, life as we know it. Materials can be used for blessing, or they can be used for ill or for sin. And what Moshe is saying to us is it's that willing heart that is what allows the actions that we do to be used to bring God into this world. And so as we make this transition and we complete the Mishkan, the tabernacle, we're reminded sometimes we need perspective. That's what Shabbat can do for us. And sometimes we need to remember to open our hearts up and to bring the gifts of our heart in order to bring holiness into this world. And it can be done with any material in our presence, as long as we have the kavanah. May each of us bring the offerings of our heart, the reflections that we have from time away in Shabbat, and may we all be ready to journey on the way out of Egypt in just 2.5 weeks. Shabbat Shalom. So now, if anyone has just something beautiful from their week that is ending. We'll make it short, but I would love to invite people to share if there was a blessing from your week. Barry, yeah. Your son and daughter-in-law bought a home yesterday. Where? Putnam Valley, New York. Mazel tov. Mazel tov. May they have much joy in their new home. And there's some new home stuff in your family as well, so that, you know, not just your kid. Right? Barry and I. Yes, and Iris bought a new house themselves recently, maybe not this week, right? Anyone else have something that was beautiful from their week? Mitch, yeah.
Rabbi, I had a great honor this week. The material that you mentioned, gold, silver.
Yeah.
My material is, I guess, public service. I'm a public official, and I was able to help the Yeshiva Gedolah down the street not only occupy the building, but actually facilitate all the things that have happened over there. I happen to be a township commissioner. But one of the things that I experienced, they honored me by asking me to dance with their newly scribed tone, which I found profound and impactful. And the other thing, it opened, at this stage of life, as I approached age 70, I realized that there are some spiritual things that I'd like to spend more time with. So part of tonight, and some of the things that I'm doing involved with the synagogue is saying to me, bring some of that richness in your life to places that it can benefit. So while I was doing that for the yeshiva, I was thinking a lot about Beth Sholom.
That's beautiful, Mitch. And for those of you who are at home and who can't necessarily hear us, well, I want to just mention that Mitch was talking about that we have the new yeshiva high school that's in Elkins Park, and part of your work led to the congregation that used to live in that building now living with us at Beth Sholom, called on me. And Mitch was honored by being able to dance with the Torah at the celebration of the dedication of that building. And it's kind of made him want to come back a little bit to some Jewish stuff here at Beth Sholom, so that's wonderful. All right, I'm just making sure that people at home who are watching on the Zoom hear what's going on. Anyone else have something that was wonderful from their week they would want to? I'll give you 2 more seconds. So I had a Sunday that was beautiful this past week. Celebrated my mom's 92nd birthday with my 3 brothers and families, and that was incredible. And then went to, I was just saying to Steve before the service that really close friend of ours who are also both rabbis who we went to rabbinical school with, Deborah and I, and who we were at their wedding. We were at Amy and Jeremy's wedding. Their son got married on Sunday late afternoon. It was the first time we at a wedding where we'd been to the parents' wedding and now the kids' wedding, which was amazing. And it was a joyous, joyous affair. So 2 simchas on the same day. Anything else that people have that was just beautiful or holy that you would want to share with us before we get back to our prayer service? Steve got a new piano. You didn't bring it with you though? No. Oh, it's like a real piano. It's not like a keyboard.
It's an electric keyboard that is much smaller and more portable than my previous keyboard.
A smaller and more portable keyboard.
In entertaining the masses.
Yeah, well, you entertain the masses very regularly. Thank you. Okay, anyone else got something to share that was beautiful from your week?
The daffodils are up in my yard.
Daffodils are up. Yes, they are up in mine too. Mm-hmm. Even though it started to get a little cold in March, even though it had been so warm before. All right, well, people want to say Shabbat Shalom. Remember, it is Shabbat HaChodesh, which means Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Thursday. And that means that the first Seder is 2 weeks from the Wednesday night before that. So if you haven't done your Pesach shopping, it's time to get your lists together. We'll continue the service now on page 28, and we invite you to rise if you are able. If standing is difficult, please, please, please remain seated for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated as we continue now privately with Ma'ariv Aravim, page 28. Baruch atah
ומעביר יום ולילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אלוהי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני,
Baruch Shema.
המעריב ערבים.
Amen. Join with us as we sing Ahavat Olam, page 29.
אהבת עולם וישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו למדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו משוכבנו וקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו ויורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה יומם ולילה מאהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Shema.
אוהב עמו ישראל
Amen.
שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Continuing privately through the middle of page 31.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם
Continuing page page 32. And that one calls out for Kayam Malay.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה נשאנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, אורד הילות עושה בלב. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים כבני משה, זה לי אנו ויאמרו, אדוני לעולם ונתנו מיזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Privately, page 33.
השכיבנו נדע לשלום ושמורתם כימי שלום אתה ויד עולם ופרוס עלינו שוקת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו כמו ישראל ויעל ירושלים.
Amen. Join with us as we sing Vishamru, page 34.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת ואת השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת ודורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We'll invite you to rise on that note, on those notes, as we now move from such beautiful music into a little bit of contemplative silence. We're going to continue now with Chatzi Kaddish, page 34, and then the Amidah is done privately, begins on page 35 and continues through page 38.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה
Amen.
בלמד יברא קירותי ובניק מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון וחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעד מעמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לילה מן הכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה נמירן ביעלמה ויאמרו אמן.
If you're still praying, please continue. Those of you concluded should feel free to be seated as we conclude the Amidah with Oseh Shalom.
Shalom bimrovav, uyase shalom aleinu, v'yale kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Yase shalom, yase shalom. Shalom aleinu ועל כל ישראל יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן.
If you're able to rise again, we invite you to do so as the Chazan leads us in Kiddush, page 49.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו בשבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרונו למעשה וראשית כי הוא יום תהילה למקרא קודש זכר לציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת וידענו קידשת בכל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Shema.
מקדש השבת אמן. לחיים.
L'chaim. And if you're able to remain standing, we invite you to do so. We will turn ahead to page 51 of your prayer book for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו גויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המעולם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ככתוב בתורתך אל ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר
Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz hayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo We invite those of you in the process of mourning or observing a yahrzeit to remain standing. We invite any of you who would wish to say aloud the name and the relationship of the person for whom you are saying Kaddish, if you would feel comfortable doing so. Iris, do you want to begin? Joy, did you want to? Ah, beautiful, beautiful. ask God, who brings peace and comfort on high, to bring peace and comfort to those remembering their loved ones. Please join with me, those of you saying Kaddish, page 52. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalma divrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. V'agala uvizman kariv v'yimru. Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevorach leolam omei omaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh. V'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal. Shemei dekudasha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Damiran v'yalma v'yimru.
Amen.
Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru.
Amen.
So first and foremost, we thank our musicians for being here and making this music tonight. Klezmer, it's beautiful, and we were all singing along with you, so we want to thank Steve and Ken and Lisa and Tess and Kathy and Carl and Randy for doing the sound, and our Chazan, as always, for making it all happen and bringing it together, and of course leading us in his beautiful singing. Just to make you aware of a few announcements that we want to make you aware of. Tuesday, you can cook for a friend at 11 o'clock, and you can make sure that some of our senior homebound elderly have nutritious food to eat. That's this Tuesday. This Thursday night, Men's Club is sponsoring Guys Night Out at Creekside Market and the Cheshire Brewing Company. I think it's also a trivia night on the 23rd. So that's this Thursday. We have 2 wonderful Shabbatot coming up. Not only tomorrow, which will be a wonderful Shabbat, but following that is Sisterhood Shabbat. Right, Kathy? Is everyone ready to go?
Yes, we are.
Everyone's ready to go. Kathy's been coordinating all of the women who are leading parts of the service on March 25th, and then Men's Club Shabbat will be the following Shabbat. We go women first, men next. But we're also going to be honoring Marshall and Tamar Grainer, who are going to be receiving the Tabish Humanitarian Award for their extraordinary work of service in many, many different parts of the community, not the least of which is helping to run the Hebrew Free Loan Society for much of the last 15 years or so. So it'll be Men's Club Shabbat, honoring Marshall and Tamar. Don't forget, April 30th is our gala featuring Michael Solomonov. Please, please, please let your friends know that they have a chance to hear from probably the most important, or among the 2 or 3. We don't leave out Risa Furman's brother. Michael Vetri, not Michael Vetri. Michael, what is? Mark Vetri, right. It's Michael Furman and Mark Vetri. So we'd say that among the top 2 or 3 chefs in the city will be here on April 30th, and we'd love you to come, be sponsors, and tell your friends, and make sure that we have a very full house for him on Sunday the 30th. And other than some wonderful adult ed that the Cantor's doing, I'm doing, Carol Nemiroff is doing, which you can see on your weekly email, I think that'll be about it for announcements. Next Shabbat is acoustic Kabbalat Shabbat. Am I correct about that?
That's right.
And great. We also, by the way, we have a wonderful family Shabbat service and dinner on Friday, March 31st, before Men's Club Shabbat. So that's also on the calendar. Without further ado.
Yes, and we're going to be doing a special Adon Olam. I want to also specifically thank Kathy, because at around 4:45 p.m. today, we realized it's St. Patrick's Day, and that maybe we should, and that we needed maybe to finish, even though it's not klezmer, with something a little more Irish-ish. So it's like klezmer Irish music. And so I called Kathy, and she said, sure, I'll come. So she came at 5:30 on the fly, like that, and she joined their service. So special thanks to Kathy on the Irish percussive instrument, the bora. So we're going to do Adon Olam to a very familiar melody, but in a less familiar way.
Adon Olam asher malach b'tarem kol yetzir nivra v'yet nasa v'nefso kol azay melech shemo nikra v'yakarei kiklot hakol levado imolok nora vehu haya vehu hoveh והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד יהיה שני, להמשילו להכפירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי ויצרה, ונד כוסי ויום אקרא וידו עתיד רוחי והייתי שנדי העירה ואם רוחי גבייתי אדוני לי ולא יירא.
Shabbat Shalom, Yasher Koach. Nice.
So that's in Irish.
Yeah, frame drum. Bull run. Bull run.
Spell it. Bodhran. Wow, it sounds like a good Scrabble word. But you really get a workout doing the Budran. But it doesn't have a D?
The D is there, but silent.
Why did they put it there?
They have too much beer.
Wait.